now.
Problems with the parole system. Good evening to you. I'm Ethan Forhetz.
I'm Lisa Rose. Only on KY3 News tonight, 3 local county sheriffs go on the record and tell KY3 News issues in the Missouri Division of Probation and Parole put public safety at risk.
They say once criminals are out of lockup, they are not being monitored closely and go on to commit more serious crimes. KY3's Sarah Forhetz has our special report tonight.
Whenever you have that, society pays.
A young girl killed in a car crash 3 weeks ago, but the heartache forever fresh in the sheriff's mind.
Too many times I've had to go tell a parent that your child is deceased to the hands of somebody like this.
The driver, 22-year-old Joshua McMacken, was arrested on suspicion of intoxicated driving, manslaughter, and assault. Records show even before the deadly crash, McMacken had a long rap sheet. Sheriff Darren Reed says he should have never been out of lockup, and Allie Chambers should still be alive.
There's a public outcry in Ozarks County, and I will do my job to protect them. I'll keep putting them in jail, but it's not the sheriff's department's fault because they're being released. Simple fact that probation and parole is not revoking them.
We contacted probation and parole leadership in Jefferson City. They refused to do an interview with us, but said in a statement, quote, "Our officers continuously assess and evaluate the offenders assigned to them and supervise the offenders at a level consistent with their risk to reoffend and pursuant to our policies." Sheriff Reed isn't the only one angry, though, about probation and parole policy.
How am I justifying to these people in the community that, yeah, we know he's been arrested 5 times and he is on probation and parole, but I'm sorry, we can't put him in jail even though we know he's high.
Douglas County Sheriff Chris DeGay says he used to go on home visits with probation and parole officers to randomly check in on offenders. He says they also used to help with random drug testing, but no more.
We deal with this every day where people use fake urine or bring somebody else's urine in to go in for a urinalysis test if they're not observed. Very frustrating, and we've been told that we're no longer involved in that process.
In fact, DeGay says another teen's life would have been spared if someone had been keeping closer tabs on murder suspect Sean D. Robertson.
Here, that had actually been stalking a girlfriend. He had broken into her house, followed her to school. There was a chase with my officers that resulted in him being shot multiple times with a beanbag gun and tased, and before he was taken into custody. He went to prison, and he did some time in prison. When he came out, my understanding was there were violations in the Springfield area, multiple violations, and subsequently he ended up committing a murder in Taney County.
18-year-old Andros Valentin Vargas was killed. Now to Wright County.
We got repeat people that's just continuously, and they're put out on parole. They come out on parole, and we're arresting them again for drugs. And to me, that should be sending them right back straight to the Department of Corrections, because when you come out on parole, you're supposed to walk the straight and narrow path. And the system's not working.
I'm going to be here, and I'm going to keep applying pressure until something is fixed.
And KY News found that it's likely also the problem includes overcrowded jails, prisons, and court dockets. The Probation and Parole Board chairman told Sarah there's been no change to their policies, and they will keep working with local law enforcement to carry out public safety. More on this story at KY3.com.
And an update now on that not-so-popular policy that's relieved Springfield police from responding to most fender benders.
Instead, those involved in accidents exchange insurance info on their own, and so far, police say it's working. KY3 Sarah Forhetz live at Sunshine and Fort with more.
Steve, Lisa, police will still respond in some cases, like if you suspect drugs or alcohol are involved, or if one of the cars is immovable. But for the most part, you are on your own if it's just a minor fender bender. But the police chief telling us today that it is working for you more than you might think.
When he found out what it was going to cost, he hit the roof and refused all information. He's won't answer my phone calls. He's hung up on my insurance agent 3 times.
We met Tim Coram in August, just after Springfield Police's new crash response policy went into effect.
I don't understand why we're having to do the police job.
He wasn't happy, but today police say they now have the numbers to prove it's working. And they say it's working for you.
really the biggest benefit is we're not having to delay our response to other things because we have some additional time here.
Chief Paul Williams says in 3 months' time, the department has not had to respond to 900 minor fender benders, thus saving them 900 man-hours. And with that time gained, focused patrol efforts on the 10 intersections in town where people wreck the most.
The biggest benefit I see, we've had a 10% decrease in the number of crashes citywide in the last 3 months. I think that's a direct result of that effort at those intersections.
Plus, he says more focused neighborhood patrol.
Citizens complain, people speeding, running stop signs, in their neighborhoods, and that's really low on our priority of things to do because we just don't have the staff. So it's freed up, allowed some time to go do that. We've handled a half dozen or so of those complaints in the last couple months.
Councilwoman Cindy Ruszewski is still a little mixed on the measure.
Are people being paid the way they normally would be paid? Are the insurance companies doing something that they ordinarily wouldn't do if the officers were involved? That we still don't know. I haven't seen anything that deals with that yet. So that's still an open question for me.
And Ruszewski went on to say that if this, in fact, is freeing up those officers to work on more serious crimes, like Police Chief Williams says, then she says that is a benefit for everyone, especially in a time, Steve and Lisa, where the department is not fully staffed.
Tonight, a former Greene County prosecutor is questioning whether many of the protesters actually want justice in Ferguson.
KY3's Sarah Forhat sat down with Darrell Moore and joined us now with what he had to say. Sarah.
Lisa, Steve, Darrell Moore says in his 26-year law career, he learned that a jury of 12 of your peers can set aside any bias, fear, malice, etc., and actually weigh just the facts. He says everyone should take time to read through all the testimony and agree with it or not. You can at least understand then how the grand jury reached the decision they did.
He's dead. Officer's life is ruined. Tragic.
For Darrell Moore, the whole situation seems like a lose-lose.
Even though he legally did nothing wrong, he's actually going to have to be on the run for the rest of his life.
Part of the testimony reads, Officer Wilson requested that Brown and another man get out of the roadway. Brown, it says, became belligerent toward Officer Wilson. As Wilson tried to get out of his car, Brown pushed the door shut and began to struggle with the officer. During the fight, the officer's weapon was unholstered. The weapon discharged. Brown, it says, ran down the roadway and Wilson chased him. As he was giving chase, Brown turned around running toward the officer. Wilson had his weapon drawn, and as Brown continued to run at Wilson, Wilson discharged his weapon several times. Wilson said of the fight, quote, I felt that another of those punches in my face could knock me out or worse. I've already taken 2 to the face, and I didn't think I would. The third one could be fatal if he hit me right.
It amazes me that people are on the streets holding justice signs when justice would require them to do the same thing. Look at all the evidence, see what the real truth is, not what you think it is, but what it is, and apply the law to it, and that's not happening here. Prosecutor announces result, immediate protests and riots. Did those people read those grand jury transcripts? No. The people on Al Sharpton today on TV, has he written? No. So are they really interested in finding what the real truth is, or are they promoting an agenda? That's my problem. I spent 26 years in the system, as you know, so I am biased. Great confidence in people being able to follow that oath and apply the law and find the truth.
And some have erroneously said this grand jury was put together to investigate the Brown shooting. The fact is, this grand jury had been impaneled looking at other cases since May. Now, the federal authorities are considering, was there a civil rights violation? Moore's opinion, based on what he knows after looking at the evidence, is that there will be no federal civil rights violation found.